Hello once again, football fans. Ted Sundquist and Jesse Kurtz here to talk about Week 12 already of Mountain West football. Entered the home stretch, still plenty on the line. Let's take a look at the standings, get you caught up where everyone sits here with 3 weeks to play. Colorado State leading the Mountain Division at 5-1 in conference play. Boise State at 4-1, as is Utah State. Air Force now 3-2. Wyoming 2-4. New Mexico at 1-4 in conference play. Over on the west side, Nevada leading the way at 3-2. San Diego State also 3-2. Fresno State at 3-3. San Jose State is at 2-3. UNLV and Hawaii have 1 win apiece in conference play. Let's dive right into the games this Saturday. We've got a big one in Colorado Springs at the Air Force Academy. Nevada visiting Air Force, noon Mountain Time on Root Sports, also streamed on the Mountain West Network outside of the Root Sports viewing area. Let's start with Nevada. They're 6-3, 3-2 in conference play. They were off last week. Defensively, Nevada coming off back-to-back games in which they surrendered less than 20 points. Take it even further. You go deep into the BYU game in the second half. They've given up 39 points in the last 8 quarters. What are they doing so well to get that done?
Well, Jesse, I think significant for the Nevada defense over the past 2 games has been opponent third down conversions. There haven't been any. I mean, when you look at it, both Hawaii and San Diego State went 4 of 13 on third down, only 30.77%. And easily the 2 best performances by the Wolfpack defense this season. I think it's been a result of a couple factors. First, Nevada's done a good job of forcing a number of third and long situations. Both the Rainbow Warriors and the Aztecs were forced into some must-throw spots to convert. And Brian Polian's defensive staff, they knew that. Second, they dialed up the pressure. 5 of Nevada's 20 sacks came over the past 2 games. And as you stated, if you factor in that second half of the BYU game, the Wolfpack added another 4. In all, a total of 11 sacks and 5 of their 6 quarterback pressures have been tallied over that 3-game stretch. It's hard to keep drives alive and to penetrate a red zone to even give yourself a chance to score when the defense know you have to pass on third down and is capable of bringing the heat the way Nevada has been able to do over the past couple of weeks.
Nevada needing to win to keep their West Division lead. Going to face a red-hot Air Force team, 7-2 overall, 3-2 in conference, coming off a game at UNLV in which they put up 48 points to win 48-21. The Falcons put up 48 points without arguably their top playmaker, at least on the outside, and Garrett Brown, who was injured, but they still put up nearly half of 148 points. Right. Pretty remarkable. What do you see that's improved most by Air Force? Without their top playmaker, they're still getting it done.
Jesse, passing efficiency. I really think so. You know, we know the Falcons can run the football. They're one of the best in the conference, if not the nation, in doing so. But the difference this season has been Cale Pearson's efficient accuracy in throwing. 60% completion rate and 9.7 per attempt might not seem like a lot in the pass-happy Mountain West, but for Air Force, those are significant numbers. Last season, Air Force struggled to throw the ball with any consistency, and I thought defenses stacked the line of scrimmage to slow down the run. They can't do that this season with the likes of Jalen Robinette, Brown, as you mentioned, and then don't forget about tight end Garrett Griffin, who's averaging over 16 yards per catch himself. That ability to strike with the big play through the air up the seams and then deep down the field slows down the safeties and run support. Against the Rebels, Pearson was only 5 of 6, but he hit Robinette on a 59-yard scoring play, completed another pass to Matt Galen for 32 yards. It set up a Jacoby Owens touchdown before the half. Then Troy Calhoun dialed up a little bit of the trick play there with Pearson on the opposite end of the receiver as the receiver of a 41-yard pass. And then Pearson's last completion, a 22-yard strike to Robinette, set up another score. You're not going to get a lot of high numbers in attempts and completions from the Air Force Academy, but the Falcons have made the most of every pass this season.
Going to face a quarterback on the other side who's done it all this year. Cody Fajardo became just the second player last week in NCAA FBS history to throw for 9,000 yards and rush for 3,000 yards in his career. We'll see if he can get it done against the Falcons. Nevada at Air Force, noon Mountain Time. Root Sports has your TV coverage. The Mountain West Network will carry the game outside of the Root Sports viewing area. Moving on to New Mexico at Utah State, 2 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN News. Let's start with New Mexico, 3-6 overall, 1-4 in conference play. Lost to Boise State in a defensive struggle, 60-49. Bob Davie, after the game, was quoted as saying, "It's a game that can rip your heart out," and it certainly did that to the Lobos. They had the game at halftime. They were playing so well, 42-35. They're outscored 19-zip in the fourth quarter. How does Bob Davie use this as a positive? Because they played so well against a very good team, a very good defense, and just couldn't get over that hump. How does he use this as a positive?
Yeah, Bob Davie's right. It can rip your heart out. And this is a program that I've said all season long that's just looking for some assertion from the scoreboard that their rise in both talent and effort will eventually pay off into more wins and losses. The Lobos have 3 victories to their credit, but they were tied with UTEP late in the fourth quarter in their opener. They were down by only 4 to Fresno State entering the fourth, behind to San Diego State only 3 late in the third, down by 7 to Air Force entering the fourth, and then, like you said, they led the Broncos by 8 going into the final 15 minutes. This is a team that clearly has the ability to win, but it hasn't quite figured out how to win, and that's the challenge that Davie and his staff have with this year's team. 2 road games back-to-back against Utah State and CSU, followed by a season-ending game against Wyoming. I think how the Lobos finish out the season, punctuated by how they finish those 3 games in the second half, will go a very long way in determining just how much New Mexico is able to improve in 2014, and then using those lessons learned going into the next season.
This is the ultimate contrast of style, strength versus strength. You got New Mexico's run offense top in the Mountain West against Utah State's run defense top in the Mountain West. The Aggies 7-3 overall, 4-1 in Mountain West play. They're coming off the win over Wyoming 20-3. That rush defense just dominating. They are suffocating, ranking 6th in the nation, giving up less than 100 yards per game. How will they stack up against New Mexico, who ran right through Boise State and looked very good doing it?
Yeah, good point. And Jesse, I'm not sure that people across the nation know exactly how stifling this Aggie defense can be, especially against the run. This is a team that has surrendered a season-high 24 points to Wake Forest. And remember, early, Darryl Garrett's an interception to start the third quarter gave the Demon Deacons the ball on Utah State's 5-yard line. And the Aggies ended up having their worst quarter of the season, giving up 17 points. And that's been it ever since. They've been really effective in not giving up the long runs from scrimmage. Only 7 over 20-plus yards, and that ranks first in the Mountain West, and nothing over 30 or more. No other team in the conference right now can claim that statistic, not even close. In fact, only Penn State and Syracuse are the only 2 programs in the country that can say that they've done that as well. So New Mexico leads the Mountain West in total big plays rushing, and has tallied more from over 10-plus to over 70-plus, and in every single category in between than any team in the Mountain West. So this should be one of those who's going to break first games. The Aggies would be well advised not to overlook the big play production of this Lobo rushing attack.
Aggies rarely break at Romney Stadium. They've been nearly unbeatable at home. They have won 7 in a row in Logan. New Mexico and Utah State, 2 o'clock Mountain Time, be televised by ESPN News. Moving on to Hawaii at San Jose State, 1:30 Pacific Time, Oceanic Time Warner will have the TV coverage on the islands. The Mountain West Network will have your broadcast right here on the mainland. Let's start with Hawaii, 2-8 overall, 1-4 in conference play. They lost to Colorado State last weekend, 49-22. Good news for Hawaii. They got Joey Iosefa back in the backfield as a running back, returned to the lineup for the Rainbow Warriors, ran for 64 yards on 19 carries. How big of a difference can he make for them down the stretch?
Well, what it gives Norton Chow's offense is a big back on third down situations and in short yardage scenarios. When you look at the 3 games that Iosefa has played in, Hawaii has converted 25 of 63 for 39.68% on third down. That's well over their season average of 33%. And only twice did Hawaii top 39% while Iosefa was out of the lineup. The remaining 3 opponents on the schedule, which also includes UNLV and Fresno State, are 3 of the bottom 4 teams in rushing defense, and they rank 8 through 10 respectively in opponent third down conversions. Iosefa will give Hawaii the confidence on offense of some consistency on third down, physical toughness in the red zone, and a surprising ability to break off the big play every now and then, and that gives the Bows a bit more flexibility in an otherwise pass-happy attack.
Speaking of pass-happy, San Jose State getting it done through the air, 3-6 overall, 2-3 in conference play, coming off the loss to Fresno State, 38-24. The Spartans, the only team in the Mountain West, one of the few in the country that have 5 or more players with 20 or more pass receptions. So Joe Gray is really distributing the ball very efficiently. I mean, things are set up for this Spartan team to throw it through the air for the foreseeable future.
You're exactly right. It's indicative of a number of positives in that Spartan offensive system. And like you said, they're already deep at wide receiver. They've got a group of underclassmen there in that 5. San Jose State should be heavy in that productive area for seasons to come. Second, I think that Spartan offensive staff, like you said, has done a great job in spreading the football around in their game planning and execution. Carr's the only player of the 5 to have missed a game this year, and that being the opener against North Dakota. Otherwise, every receiver has at least 1 5 or more reception game to his credit. So they've done a great job spreading it around. Third, the peace of mind, like you mentioned, early quarterback starter Blake Jurich and now Joey Gray have had with multiple options to throw to, can't be discounted. It's a little wonder that the Spartans are one of the leaders in completion percentage, 64.6% in the Mountain West. And consider Jabari Carr's would-be record tops the likes of former NFL stars Mark Nichols, Stacey Bailey, Mervin Fernandez, along with James Jones, who played 7 seasons in Green Bay and now is a member of the Oakland Raiders. It's a pretty talented group to be compared to.
You talk about former NFL stars. For 5,000 fans that walk through the gates for this game, get a Dick Vermeil bobblehead doll.
How can I get one of those?
There you go. We're putting in the request right now. Dick Vermeil played quarterback for San Jose State in 56 and 57. He'll be inducted in the San Jose Sports Hall of Fame on November 17th. Again, Hawaii and San Jose State, 1:30 Pacific Time. Time Warner Oceanic has your TV coverage. The Mountain West Network will have the broadcast on the mainlands. Moving on to UNLV at BYU, 5 o'clock Mountain Time. ESPNU will have the coverage. UNLV 2-8 overall, 1-5 in conference play, coming off the loss to Air Force. Mountain West teams are 3-0 against BYU this season, including 2-0 in Provo. What does UNLV have to do to make it a clean sweep this year at 4-0?
Okay, you finally asked me an easy question, and that is win the turnover battle. When you look at it, the Cougars are -7 in those 3 games combined, and they coughed at the ball a total of 9 times. 5 fumbles and 4 interceptions. BYU has only been on the minus side of the turnover margin in one other game all season, and that was -3 in a win over Houston. Bobby Houck's Rebel defense has struggled this season with only 11 takeaways, and that ranks last in the Mountain West. 3 of BYU's top 4 passing attempt games have come against Mountain West opponents, and the Rebel defense has been stingy at times this year, I think, against the pass. So UNLV has got to find a way to put some pressure on BYU's quarterback Christian Stewart. The Cougars are near the bottom of Division I in sacks allowed with 29, and the Rebels have recorded right around 2 a game this season. That number is around 3 or more when BYU has lost in 2014. 4 of Stewart's 5 interceptions were thrown versus Utah State and Boise State. So I think the Rebels would be well served in studying the tape of how the Aggies and the Broncos were able to pressure the Cougar offense into errant throws, and how Nevada was able to force and recover 3 fumbles. And I can promise you that defensive coordinator Timmy Houck has emphasized that all week already, so I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know.
BYU enters the game 5-4, still chasing bowl eligibility. UNLV would love to throw a wrench into those plans in Provo against the Cougars. If the numbers give you any indication into how this game is going to go, expect a close game. 6 of the last 11 games in this series have been decided by 10 points or less. UNLV and BYU, 5 o'clock Mountain Time, be televised by ESPNU. The nightcap in the Mountain West will go down in Boise on the Blue. San Diego State and Boise State, 8:15 Mountain Time, also on ESPNU. San Diego State 5-4 overall, 3-2 in conference play, coming out the win at home over Idaho, 35-21. Quinn Kaler had a career-high 3 touchdown passes in the win against the Vandals. How refreshing is it to see him throw the ball well again, because he's been nagged by injuries. For him to come out, throw 3 touchdown passes, I'm sure Rocky Long breathes a little bit of a sigh of relief there.
I was just getting ready to say, it's got to be really nice for head coach Rocky Long. His senior quarterback had only thrown 4 touchdowns all season prior to his hat trick against the Vandals. Kaler also threw season highs in completion percentage, 63.6%, and yards per attempt at 11.3 per completion. And that was on his lowest number of attempts this season with 22. Throw out the 3 against New Mexico earlier in the season. This performance was much more indicative of the player that led the Aztecs to the big bowl win last year over Buffalo. Kaler's efficiency also took a little pressure off the running game that was held to a season low 4 yards per carry on 39 attempts. The Aztecs hit on 9 of 14 third down conversions, easily their highest percentage on the season at 64.29%. I think most potent Aztec offenses have been those that press a defense with a balanced attack. San Diego State's scoring average of 23.6 points per game is their lowest since 2009. And their 181 yards passing per game is the second lowest of that same time period. Really, New Mexico's 505 rushing yards was an anomaly in Boise State's defensive season, aside from the 287 versus Air Force. So I think Kaler and the Aztecs will need to throw the ball like they did against Idaho to have a chance on that blue turf against Boise.
Speaking of throwing the ball, Boise State threw the ball all over the field in Albuquerque in the win over New Mexico. The Broncos 7-2 overall, 4-1 in conference play coming off the win over New Mexico, which Grant Hedrick threw for 367 yards and 4 touchdowns. Didn't stop there, also ran the ball for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. Have a day, Grant Hedrick. Totally different quarterback than the guy that we saw struggle against Air Force, certainly an anomaly because we've never seen him play like that. What's been the major differences? Because we've seen enough sample size between Air Force and the game against New Mexico. What's the difference?
Well, certainly the stat that stands out is only 2 interceptions since the 4 he threw against the Falcons, like you mentioned. And I felt he was clearly forcing the ball that night against the Academy. I had a chance to see that game live. Part of that is the Bronco offensive line has done, I think, a good job of protecting Hedrick in the pocket. He's a rhythm quarterback that's best when he receives a snap, sets his feet, and gets rid of the ball in a fairly 1-2-3 fluid motion. When run out of the pocket or forced to pull the ball down and adjust, he's got a tendency to rush and to try to make something happen, and he'll throw into coverage. The other thing that appears to be helping Hedrick is the Broncos look to be stretching the field a bit more with Shane Williams-Rhodes and Thomas Spurbeck. Going back to Hedrick's confidence and comfort behind the O-line, he's been able to throw the ball downfield with more accuracy and allowed his receivers to run under and to the ball to make that big play. Spurbeck's first game back this season was against Air Force, and since then he's racked up 15 receptions of 15-plus yards and another 6 of 25-plus. And then throw in Chaz Anderson, who's added to that big play production as well with 5 over 15 and 5 over 25. And then finally, Jesse, Jay Ajayi. He's kick-started the consistency in that running game with 4 consecutive 100-plus yard performances, and that can take a lot of pressure off your quarterback. So Hedrick clearly is more at ease right now, and I think that's reflective of the way the rest of the offense has stepped up to the plate.
San Diego State and Boise State has become one of the better rivalries in Boise State's short time in the Mountain West. It's always a fantastic game. Got a chance to be the game of the year in the Mountain West if it lives up to that billing. San Diego State looking to become the 6th Mountain West team this season to become bowl eligible. The Aztecs and the Broncos on the blue, 8:15 Mountain Time, be televised by ESPNU. 3 teams in the Mountain West are taking the week off. That would be Colorado State, Wyoming, and Fresno State. For Ted Sundquist, I'm Jesse Kurtz. Thanks for watching, and enjoy another weekend of Mountain West football.